cortex of the soul. The soul can perceive of itself, and independently of the mediation of physical organs, by means of its sensibility and its diaphany, the things both spiritual and corporeal which are existent in the universe. Spiritual and corporeal are simply terms which express the degrees of tenuity or density in substance. What is called the imagination within us is only the soul's inherent faculty of assimilating the images and reflections contained in the living light, being the great magnetic agent. Such images and reflections are revelations when science intervenes to reveal us their body or light. The man of genius differs from the dreamer and the fool in this only, that his creations are analogous to truth, while those of the fool and the dreamer are lost reflections and bewrayed images. Hence, for the wise man to imagine is to see, as for the magician to speak is to create. It follows that by means of the imagination, demons and spirits can be beheld really and in truth. But the imagination of the adept is diaphanous, whilst that of the crowd is opaque. The light of truth traverses the one as ordinary light passes through clear glass, and is refracted by the other, as when ordinary light impinges upon a vitreous block, full of scoriae and foreign matter. That which most contributes to the errors of the vulgar is the reflection of depraved imaginations, one in the other. But in virtue of positive science, the seer knows that what he imagines is true, and the event invariably confirms his vision. We shall state in the ritual after what manner this lucidity can be acquired. It is by means of this light that static visionaries place themselves in communication with all worlds, as so frequently occurred to Swedenborg, who notwithstanding was imperfectly lucid, seeing that he did not distinguish reflections from rays, and often intermingled chimerical fancies with his most admirable dreams. We say dreams because dream is the consequence of a natural and periodical ecstasy which we term sleep. To be in ecstasy is to sleep. Magnetic somnambulism is a production and direction of ecstasy. The errors which occur therein are occasioned by reflections from the diaphany of waking persons, and above all of the magnetizer. Dream is vision produced by the refraction of a ray of truth. Chimerical fantasy is hallucination occasioned by a reflection. The temptation of St. Anthony with its nightmares and its monsters represents the confusion of reflections with direct rays. So long as the soul struggles, it is reasonable. When it yields to this species of invading intoxication, it becomes mad. To disentangle the direct ray and separate it from the reflection, such is the work of the initiate. Here let us state distinctly that this work is being performed continually in the world by some of the flower of mankind, that there is hence a permanent revelation by intuition, and that there is no insuperable barrier which separates souls, because there are no sudden interruptions and no high walls in nature by which minds can be divided from one another. All is transition and blending, wherefore, assuming the perfectibility, if not infinite, at least indefinite, of human faculties, it will be understood that every person can attain to see all, and therefore to know all. There is no void in nature. All is peopled. There is no true death in nature. All is alive. "Seest thou that star?" asked Napoleon of Cardinal Fesch. "No, sire." "I see it," said the emperor, and he most certainly did. When great men are accused of superstition, it is because they behold what remains unseen by the crowd. Men of genius differ from simple seers by their faculty of communicating sensibly to others that which they themselves perceive, and of making themselves believe by the force of enthusiasm and sympathy. Such persons are the media of the divine word. Let us now specify the manner in which visions operate. All forms correspond to ideas, and there is no idea which has not its proper and peculiar form. The primordial light, which is the vehicle of all ideas, is the mother of all forms, and transmits them from emanation to emanation, merely diminished or modified according to the density of the media. Secondary forms are reflections which return to the font of the emanated light. The forms of objects, being a modification of light, remain in the light where the reflection consigns them. Hence, the astral light or terrestrial fluid, which we call the great magnetic agent, is saturated with all kinds of images or reflections. Now, our soul can evoke these and subject them to its diaphany, as the Kabbalists term it. Such images are always present before us, and are effaced only by the more powerful impressions of reality during waking hours, or by preoccupation of the mind, which makes our imagination inattentive to the fluidic panorama of the astral light. When we sleep, this spectacle presents itself spontaneously before us, and in this way dreams are produced. Dreams vague and incoherent if some governing will do not remain active during the sleep, giving even unconsciously to our intelligence a direction to the dream, which then transforms into vision. Animal magnetism is nothing but an artificial sleep produced by the voluntary or enforced union of two wills, one of which is awake while the other slumbers. That is, one of which directs the other in the choice of reflections for the transformation of dreams into visions and the attainment of truth by means of images. Thus, somnambulists do not actually travel to the place where they are sent by the magnetizer. They evoke its images in the astral light and can behold nothing which does not exist in that light. The astral light has a direct action on the nerves, which are its conductors in the animal economy, transmitting it to the brain. It follows that in a state of somnambulism, it is possible to see by means of the nerves without being dependent on radiant light, the astral fluid being a latent light, in the same way that physics recognize the existence of a latent caloric. Magnetism between two persons is certainly a wonderful discovery, but the magnetizing of a person by himself, awakening his own lucidity and directing it himself at will, is the perfection of magical art. The secret of this great work does not remain for discovery. It has been known and practiced by a great number of initiates, above all by the celebrated Apollonius of Tyana, who has left a theory concerning it, as we shall see in the ritual. The secret of magnetic lucidity and the direction of the phenomena of magnetism depend on two things: agreement of minds and complete union of wills, in a direction which is possible and determined by science. This is for the operation of magnetism between two or more persons. Solitary magnetism requires preparations of which we have spoken in our initial chapter, when enumerating and establishing in all their difficulty the essential qualities of a veritable adept. In the following chapters we shall elucidate further this important and fundamental point. The empire of will over the astral light, which is the physical soul of the four elements, is represented in magic by the pentagram, placed at the head of this chapter. The elementary spirits are subservient to this sign when employed with understanding, and by placing it in the circle or on the table of evocations, they can be rendered tractable, which is magically called their imprisonment. Let us explain this marvel briefly. All created beings communicate with one another by signs, and all adhere to a certain number of truths expressed by determinate forms. The perfection of forms increases in proportion to the emancipation of spirits, and those that are not overweighted by the chains of matter recognize by intuition out of hand whether a sign is the expression of a real power or of a precipitate will. The intelligence of the wise man, therefore, gives value to his pantacle, as science gives weight to his will, and spirits comprehend this power immediately. Thus, by means of the pentagram, spirits can be forced to appear in vision, whether in the waking or sleeping state, by themselves leading before our diaphany their reflection, which exists in the astral light, if they have lived, or a reflection analogous to their spiritual logos if they have not lived on earth. This explains all visions and accounts for the dead invariably appearing to seers, either such as they were upon earth or such as they are in the grave, never as they subsist in a condition which escapes the perceptions of our actual organism. Pregnant women are influenced more than others by the astral light.
Okay, this has been Eliphas Levi Magic.
What are we saying here? Are we just this is if this is not cherry picking your outrage at in its purest form, I don't know what the fuck is. This is selective outrage. Because again, how are you cheerleading for the boot that's on your neck pleading for that. Go. Anybody that has ever made the argument in this room, he got 34 felonies. He's a convicted felon. Please, you got the floor to rationalize your thought process to me right now. Make me understand what you understand. Justify that right now. You got the floor. Is there anybody?
Yeah, it's very easy. It's called show trials. It's for political purposes to besmirch someone's character with fake judges, fake prosecutors. It's all lies, baby. But that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Serious, come off the mic.
That is serious. Who the president? It ain't Kamala. You doing the selective outrage, dog. You selectively outraging. You full of shit. You a hypocrite.
He's asking for an opposing view other than yours.
Selective put your ass in a goddamn Google.
That's right. You selectively outraging right now. Take a deep breath. Hold it for 10 seconds. It's called meditation now. Let it go. You're free. Nobody got a boot on your neck. You a fucking selective outrager. You full of shit, dog. You know it. You know it. Don't just do it for the content now. Let actually do the meditation now. Come on, man. There ain't no boot on your neck, man. You selectively outraged.
That Clark Gable PTR is fucking me up. But that's funny though. But like, honestly, anybody who ever made that argument, but he's a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon. Please rationalize your thought process to me. How you can justify that shit. How can you justify being a cheerleader for a boot on your neck? Please don't all speak at once, because I know exactly who be in these rooms making these arguments. I just want to see if you got integrity to come off your mic and justify your rationale.
Got you be a man and call out your opponent.
I like the beach.
No, sir. Not right now. Not right now. I'm finna turn my leaf blower on and blow the rest of these leaves out my yard.
Hey, I wanna ask a question.
Some suburban shit.
Since Adrian can't get any takers on his question, let's see if I can get his takers on mine, right?
Darn nuts. Anyway, I have to.
Of the book and
Are you the Muslim?
I am the Muslim. It's
So
pronounced
you're-
Muslim,
Can I
not
ask you a
Moose.
question? Before
Alright.
you guys get started, I need to ask one question before
Yeah.
you guys get started. So the Africa, does a law allow anal?
No.
No.
Well, I'm not converting to your religion.
Donald's done it before. I didn't know about that. So yeah, they can't do it. What about a blowjob?
You can do. It's not. It's not recommended, but it's not. You won't get sent for it. But it is like. It's like something. It's like something dirty. It's like It's not really. It's this light. It's like not clean.
Hey, Africa, do you think
It's your
that
prerogative.
Muhammad broke that law with Aisha?
Oh God, help me.
Can you shut the hell up, Davey? What's your question?
So here's what here you're gonna have to follow me on this one. It takes some. So from what I understand, Muslims believe that Christians and Jews are people.
It's pronounced mus, not
Oh, I
moose.
say moose.
Mus.
Chocolate Muslim.
Okay. I'm trying to get it right, so thank you for the correction because I want to be respectful, culturally respectful.
Thank you.
I am gonna full disclosure. I am a pagan man, so.
Me too.
I thought you were Jewish.
No. No, we're both a
You're
couple of
not?
pagan people.
So we're all pagans in here.
There you go.
Well,
Yeah, you told me your book was the Tanakh. I remember.
Oh yes, I do like the Tanakh.
Oh, but you don't follow it. You're not a
No, not.
Jewish.
I wanted to be Jewish. And
Is your ethnicity Jewish?
No, I'm totally Italian.
Oh, wow, interesting. Okay.
So can I ask my question or? Sorry, I just.
Have the thought, sweetheart.
No. I understand, but the conversation had slid, and I wanted to. I just wanted to know this. So if Christians and Jews are people.
Yes. Yes.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Shabbat b'nei pri hagafen.
What is this?
Amen.
What is this, man?
I really don't know.
You're talking Hebrew, no?
We just need to coexist, love one another. Love is the way is love.
If somebody agree with me, who's an American Jewish.
עמוס! כן. מה שלומך? הנה באתי. ראית? נתתי לך הבטחה?
מה השעה? מה השעה אצלך עכשיו?
סליחה, זה 19 דקות מאוחר. סליחה, אתה לא יודע את הזמנים של הערבים, יעני, זה שעות של הערבים, מה לעשות?
Jerusalem, I don't understand, man. I'm talking English.
Okay.
Please apologize that you come 20 minutes late.
Okay.
I want to ask about somebody who knows Arab music.
Me,
What is like the famous singer today? That I should listen to.
do you know Julia Botros?
That's what I was thinking. Julia Boutros.
Yeah. Can you تتكلم عربي لا؟
Yeah, a little bit. I understand.
في أغنية اسمها عاب مجدك.
Oh, that's too much for me. But I'm going to go. So, what's the name of a song? She has a good song.
عاب مجدك. عاب مجدك. راح اكتب لك إياها هون بالعربي، أوكي؟ عاب مجدك. And you can search on YouTube.
Yeah. That's cool. You're any person from Egypt, right?
What?
Whereas Boutros, Julia Boutros is from Egypt or from Lebanon?
No, from Lebanon.
Okay. Most of the singers are from Egypt, or are they from Lebanon?
I think from mixed from Lebanon, Egypt.
How about a Moroccan singer? Yeah, it's Moroccan singer.
Moroccan.
By the Lord of the.
We have a Jew Moroccan music.
What's his name?
I will search for that.
Flashes with beak and
Yeah,
claw.
okay, you put it up.
Come to thrill with listen lust of the lust.
And then next morning she tried to reinitiate sex.
Yeah.
Did you see me?
Yes. I put it in the chat. This is a Moroccan Jew music. The famous, most famous in the country of Morocco.
All I was thinking. That's what I said.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to it.
This course wristwatch. Yeah, the course wristwatch. There's one thing. On Instagram.
I'm looking at this interesting. This is a banjo, right? What's he playing? Banjo.
What?
What kind of instrument is he playing?
The title of this song is Kill the Terrorists. Stop terrorism.
No, we can exactly because I don't.
Yeah, I see all. I see the Luca.
Their Boca. Yeah.
For AI companies to iterate full information from their platform. But the largest one. What is that company?
What's this? What is she thinking? What is she saying?
He's saying.
Yeah.
He's talking about. She's talking about a Jew woman who lives in Morocco. About his relation between his neighbor, something like this, just something like this.
Answers your question.
Don't piss me off.
Do you have any?
Go ahead,
I'll
David.
finish you off all I want. She don't want to kill me.
Are you sure?
Hi, Donald, put me in your queue.
I'm gonna wish. I wish Allah send someone.
Allahu Akbar, Donald, this is Diego. Put me in your queue. Thank you very little, Donald.
Yeah, I hope you get punishment for that, so you can learn your lesson. So to do not play around.
You had enough time.
What time? I'm not speaking. David was asking me questions, but
Right. So
I'm not done cursing Donald. I wish you get a severe punishment.
Shut the fuck up.
I wish you get a severe punishment
Happy birthday, Diego.
so you don't play around with this stuff.
Thank you so much. Donald, put me in the queue. I don't want to have to talk over anybody. Thank you, Donald.
And you're not supposed to be on social media.
So I will answer his response about the creator, and again, it's not from it's not good enough for the secular crowd in that respect. But there are multiple ways in which creation can happen. My tradition doesn't have a specific story about that. The closest we get is that everybody was involved. You, your ancestors, everything, whoever was involved. It's still being created. It's a very moment in time. It doesn't make sense about a judge or a thing. Everything is still growing and creating, coming in and out of existence. So there's multiple ways to look at the same world.
So you don't think it all originates from one source?
Diego, you see what goes on here? It's not like you're you can bet. Diego, this work.
Thank you so much, Donald. Put me in the queue. I want to read to myself a birthday poem.
No, it's not. It's a little bit longer. He's very soothing. I like his.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity, Donald. I hope that the atheists enjoy this poem. It's a very good poem. You're gonna love it.
Everyone cool down. Cool down.
It's called Love Your Neighbor. To practice acts of kindness is to love your neighbor as yourself. Loving your neighbor as yourself reveals the unity of neighbor and self. For no one is separate from another. All beings are equal, having a single source in the one who is all. This explains Hillel's teaching. This is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. Torah's sole purpose is to remove the veils of diversity to reveal the divine unity, that you might then love the one by loving the many. This is the commentary. The realization of God in, with, and as all things manifests as indescribable joy. Joy is not the same as happiness, and it is important that you do not mistake the two. Happiness comes and goes dependent upon the circumstances of the moment, but joy is a deeper sense of the sublime that is sustained regardless of circumstance. God is infinite, unbounded. To say that one thing is God while another is not, is to place a limit on God that reduces God to God with a little g. We are in the habit of saying God is in heaven, or God is in me, but the greater truth is that heaven and earth, you and all creation, are in God and of God, the same way a wave is in the ocean of the ocean. This is a fierce faith, a faith that has nothing to do with belief, ideas, or ideology. This is a faith that leaves you with nothing to cling to and nowhere to hide. This faith strips you naked and leaves you exposed to the truth. Alles is Gott. All is God. All is God. All is God.
I got something. It's my turn now.
Oh, this is God. Just about a minute.
I get it. So, in the beginning, when all was still there, running through the waters of
I like the imagery and I understand it's in I think the universe is a dream, so I actually think that you probably married one or two or several fairies, John.
Okay, well, this is an important question that Diego, anyone who would know the answer. Everything has been more than one. Why is God just one thing? And you know, of course, how did he get there? But he's only just one. And that, right, there's no hope for anything, Donald. It doesn't make sense.
That's a good question, Joanna. That's a very good question. Do you think if there's multiple gods, everything would be in unison?
Well, like in Egypt, they had multiple gods, right?
Yeah, but they were fighting though. They were fighting, right? They fought. So, do you think like this world looks like they're fighting? That the creators are fighting?
Indeed, but also we have a concept called unison in music where all of the instruments are playing synchronously. Yeah, it's many and it's one, and it's called unisons, and they can be, it's a threshold, so they can be widened.
No, that's what they call it in like it's.
Okay, well, is that what you believe that?
I believe that all is one and one is all in that respect, and I think nature gives us that.
You know, there's a lot of there's a couple blind people that came to Islam and they became very, very strong believers in Islam. So I know he is. So you know, I recommend you. There's like Braille. There's like Braille. Oh, you can listen to just the audio translation in English.
Okay.
So I think you give it a listen, Dave, and I think you would be surprised. You hear something you haven't heard
I
before.
admit that I'm no longer seeking a following
So what is this essence of God that people believe in? What if he had formed a way to come to Earth, and he's in us right now, experiencing the physical form in all of us?
I mean, that's Alan Watts' dream, right? That everything that exists is now a dream and an illusion of divine, which divine will ultimately, the awesome part is that each part wake up to itself, that it is only dreaming. I mean, that's an awesome idea.
I'm not dreaming.
Yeah, sometimes I think all just thoughts to God. That's why it's so easy to like create and destroy stuff, because it's like we're just a thought. You know what I mean? Like someone's imagination.
Nothing's ever been created. It's all created. It's already been created. Yeah, like carbon, say, or any element.
Well, everything is energy based.
transforms.
But if we keep asking, what if?
Okay,
I'm in
so
middle
this,
six, buddy. I'm in middle six. Since we understand that the future and the past exist at the same time, then everything's over.
okay,
You're almost pegging there, Donald.
this
I
Allah
was
guy.
gonna say, Dave, you need to Google a name, Donald Huffman. He's a psychologist about the realities of the spiritual state.
Okay, let's try to be
I
moving.
wonder if he studied Al-Quds. I'll have to check it out.
Okay, Abaco, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, how did Allah know how to make all the billions of things and then have them come to Earth and then evolve? Because, there is species too, form and then. Okay, so how do you know how to do amino acids, molecules, atoms, DNA, cells? How does God know how to do it? How to make all this complexity?
Well, number one, Joanne,
That's
he's not a human. So that you can think about it like, oh, how did he learn? How did he know? Like a little kid. Okay. Well, so once you get the that's his secret. How he got all of that information. Number one. Number two, he knows more than that. More than everything that exists, he knows more than that. So your brain, your brain can't handle it. My brain can't handle it either.
I like when he laughs, so I have to admit. Let him laugh. I just don't get it.
If you ask all the powers of Allah, you're gonna lose your mind. You won't be able to figure it out.
He's so intelligent to know genetics and microbiology. And has no origin.
We haven't even landed on the moon. How powerful do you think you are? We're nothing. We're powerless. Our mind is so limited. I'm telling you, you can't compare to him. We can't understand this. Our brain is so small, we can't understand it.
So he made us small computers and put us here for what?
That's a good question. That's what you should ask yourself. Figure out.
Well, I can help answer that question with another poem.
Yeah, try it. I'm just going to close my eyes and take a breath. Let's all take the deepest breath of the day.
Okay, this is called Other Gods. Torah speaks as humans speak, giving the impression of duality. But there is no duality in God, and the one light animates all worlds, including even those mired in self and otherness. Unawakened selves are called other gods. Their otherness falsely derived from their imagined distance from God. Perceiving nothing but themselves, they proclaim themselves God, saying, I am, and there is nothing besides me. Thus arrogance is the heart of idolatry. But arrogance is rooted in delusion, for there is nothing but God. This is the commentary. It says, Mitzvot, those sacred commandments designed to awaken you to the Shekhinah, the infinite presence of God. An in-betweener continually recalls her unity with God and her obligations to godliness. One way to do this is through Torah, not simply the study of Torah, but through the living of Torah. The ultimate challenge of Torah is to be holy as I, Yahweh, am holy. The only way we can be as God is if we are what God is. And this is what Tanya tells us over and over again. God is the all in all. Knowing this, we engage the world justly and humbly. Torah is a way for us to discover who we are and what we are to do. This is not done didactically. Torah study is not about gathering information. It is about generating awe. Torah reveals the unity of God, woman, man, and nature, and this revelation triggers an overwhelming awe that in turn awakens Chokmah, our intuitive wisdom aware of God's non-duality. While everyone can study Torah, not everyone has this capacity for awe.
Such people should focus on living Torah through the mitzvot, and in this way discovering awe through action.
I can translate this in his Judaism. Because his mother's not Jewish, so he's out. You can't be a Jew.
Yeah, if your womb isn't Jewish, you're not Jewish.
Thank you. It's called a rechem. Rechem. It's womb. It also is from the word Rachel. Rachel, the mother of Joseph and Benjamin.
That's the second reason why charting Joseph's. That's the second reason why charting Joseph's genealogy back to David makes no sense.
I love that.
That's two reasons why it makes no sense. By the way, I said the first reason is that Joseph wasn't the father
Of who?
Jesus.
No, he wasn't supposed to be.
He couldn't be. So why?
Oh, that Joseph.
Yeah, why trade?
Yeah, does anyone know what happened to that guy? Because he just disappears from the scene.
All of them disappear. All 12
Yeah, they're gone.
All of his
They never mentioned Joseph after the manger.
There's one mention of his brother James.
Jesus' brother James. Well, when he's being crucified, he looks down and he says to his brother John, "Take care of your mother."
One of the Gospels shows her at the tomb,
Mm-hmm.
but only one.
I have the four different tomb scenes. I have them all memorized.
Yeah, aren't they
All different, completely different, all of them. I like the one with just Mary Magdalene. She tiptoes, and Jesus, are you really in there? And then, she sees him, but she doesn't recognize him because he looks like. Yeah, and I do believe in Mary Magdalene. Maybe did have his baby.
Well, and not only that, but the way he got here was according to The Life of Brian by Monty Python. Probably Naughtiest Maximus, Biggest Dickus, or one of the. Yeah, that's funny. But when he said cockma, I was trying to follow. I have a juvenile dirty mind, so I'm like, is that smegma from the cock? I'm not sure.
Funny. You know when people throw their clothes into those bins? Well, sometimes they just leave them outside. And
Laundry
today,
bin?
Donald, I found something that I want to send to you. I found the 1913 edition of Shakespeare book. It's original. Yeah. Maybe it's worth something. But I want to. Well, people should give you gifts, Donald. You have this room open. Where else can we get knowledge?
We need to give him gifts that he wants, so we need to ask. We do a wish list.
Yeah, get him. Guess what? He named the cat after me. All right, go proceed. Proceed. Thank you. I'm just knitting whilst I'm listening, and
It ended up being a boy, though.
that's okay. I always had Venus envy. I can't imagine having one. I'd be like, look, everybody. It would be funny.
It's annoying.
The television program that traps celebrities in their own home.
Whenever you pee, it wiggles around.
Yeah.
A zipper would make that penis envy go right away, though.
And once you get something caught in the zipper, you never ever want to.
Oh, remember the back scene? We have a bleeder. Yeah.
How did you get the piece?
How'd you get the beans above the franks? Fucking hysterical. Right?
Oh man.
Yep.
And you always want to stick it.
Gaia was having a sense of humor.
Yeah. Just want to stick it. I wonder what it feels like to be the going in part, not the entrance.
Well, if you were uncircumcised, it would feel better, I've heard.
Yes. The end of an era now for the former
Uncircumcised. Yes, I've heard uncircumcised is better.
Oh.
Because it makes the head an internal organ. So it's more.
Let me see what's in the room. Well, I won't say, but I know some people who are not circumcised in the room.
Well, it doesn't matter because
Chicago.
You can't compare, but you probably did lose some feeling.
Yeah. Plus, they tear a gland whenever they do. So that.
Chevrolet products for 1962. Share the spider's mood of enjoyment and satisfaction.
Recently did a video And in the thumbnail, it showed the table that they put you on to do the circumcision.
Ouch.
And they literally strap down your arms and strap on your leg.
When you're an infant?
Yes.
I know my son had it at the hospital.
Yeah, me too. But when I did it, when I had it done, they used stitches, and you were supposed to get brought back in a month to have the stitches taken out. Well, I had shitty hair. They didn't do that, and I've been digging stitches out of it.
I remember her. Crazy.
Dear Santa.
When a kid
Looking for a family-friendly
sue.
church home? Join us this Sunday and enjoy classes for all ages. Click below, and missionaries like us will help you find your nearest circle.
On your penis?
45 years old, man.
Dude, okay. A pretty important member to,
I had some weird shit happen as a child, as an infant too, but that's like 1970, 71. There's no fucking way. That hospital burned down since then.
and the record.
I was born in 79. They stopped using stitches in American Made.
Did they have glue?
I don't know how they do. They also have like
She's a salt bait.
Yeah.
They were new back then. They have
Imagine the first person to say, let's do this. Like two guys are sitting there, in the desert.
Well, apparently it was a wife. It was Abraham.
Sarah? Who would even think that? Like, let's cut this off. Like, this is like
I
in the...
don't know who actually was the first person to do it.
No, so, yeah, who the heck went along with it?
They've been doing circumcisions in Africa for hundreds of years. I don't know who was the first one. I might be able to look it up. I bet there's a study.
It goes way back. I mean, male and female genital mutilation has been done in Africa for long before any Abrahamic traditions came along. And people thought that it might have been an us versus them marker in the tribes because people were running around naked. So the easiest way to show who's in and who's out, if you're all skins, is to have cocks cut. It's a weird, gross thing.
Well, the
Yeah.
it does go back way before the Bible,
Oh.
and the difference is that quite often it was like a ceremony done with puberty. So at the time, the part of the sheath would have been, or the foreskin would have been, already retracted from the glands, meaning that you wouldn't cut the whole thing off. You could cut a part of it and still have a bit of the foreskin, a bit of the sheath, right? And that's what happens with Muslim people when they get theirs done at 7 years old. There's some retraction already, so it's not like when you do it to an infant where the whole thing is gone because the piece you're working on or mutilating is very tiny and they're basically tearing it because it's fused to the glands. So they're tearing it from the glands, leaving a wound that's just an open wound, right? Because they're basically just skinning the glands at that point, and they remove the entire amount. The amount that they remove from infants grows into, if it had been left there, the amount of skin that would cover a regular postcard.
Oh.
And it would fold back in on itself. So, the later you do it, the better if you want to have it as a rite of passage, but best to have it done when it's fully retracted. So, while I fight for the rights of infants to remain whole, I have no problem with an adult wanting to do whatever they want to themselves. I just don't think you should be carving your own religion into somebody else's genitals.
Thank you. So
Thank you, Victoria.
Wow.
The earliest documentation of circumcision
Okay.
is in Egypt, but we have some evidence going back between 6,000 and 10,000 BC.
How do you fight for that and help people? You have to talk to moms and
You get rid of the religion.
get rid of the religion. Oh, yeah.
Well, you do.
But you have to
talk
fight in
moms.
secular spaces too, because people don't do it just for religion. You have to tell the parents to order it not to be done in the hospital when they're there. Sorry to interrupt, but having gone through this, having had a child 30 years ago, she was a girl, but they told us all about how to prevent it from happening.
Yeah, and now insurance doesn't cover it as easily, so it is, that kind of outreach. But also, just like the reason I know about the Muslim is I was at a protest for this, and a Muslim man came up and was very confused as to why I. Well, what do you know about it? Right? And I didn't say it in a, like, what do you know? I was like, well, first let me know where you are with the knowledge of it. And he said, well, I was circumcised when I was 7, and while it hurt, it was very much a special religious rite for me. And so I'm glad that it was done because, and he told me all about how this means something to him. And I said, oh, okay, can I ask you a personal question? And he said, yes. And I said, do you have foreskin, right? And he said, yes, it doesn't go all the way over the glands, but he has most of it. And I said, okay, would you want to have none of it? And he said, no, I'm glad I've got what I've got. And I said, okay. And then he said, but because I remember the pain, I had my sons done last year when they were born, because he had twins. And I said, oh, okay. And I just felt so disappointed for him. And he said, well, why do you look so sad? And I said, well, they won't have any foreskin. And he was shocked. He was like, what? And I said, the only reason that you have foreskin is because it was retracted by the time you were 7, slightly. It then retracted more, which is why he has some, right? And he's like, what do you mean? And so we went through the entire sort of biology or whatever it is, the function and form of an infant penis. And I told him what had to be done. And then I asked him, why would you not want your kids to experience the joy that you had at that ceremony when you were 7? And he said, well, we're still going to have the ceremony. I just thought I could save them the pain. And I said, okay, well, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but this is now what you're dealing with. And he said, I'm sorry to cut this short, but I need to go make a call. And I said, okay. And then he came back about half an hour later, and he thanked me. And what he did is he had gone and phoned his sister, who was going to have kids in the next couple of weeks, or a kid. I don't know whether she was having twins too.
I spoke to him once and asked him for a
But
franchise.
he knew that she was having a son, and that she planned to have him circumcised, and he wanted to tell her not to do it because he said we should wait. Now I think they still plan to do it later, but he wanted to explain to her the whole what happens, and that he wouldn't end up with because I told him, I said, have you ever seen a picture or seen a guy who's fully circumcised? And he said, yeah. And I said, and we talked about it a bit, and I said, well, that's what your son's gonna look like, so don't think that they're gonna now grow a foreskin, right? Anyway, so he went and told his sister. Now, I'm not gonna stop them from doing a 7-year-old, but that gives that kid
So, Ethan, you're from Poland or Ukraine or where are you from originally?
Well, mom and dad, they were born in Tel Aviv. And mom was actually born in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother was born in Jerusalem. And my grandfather was born in Bukhara in Uzbekistan and Iraq. I was another one born in Iraq. So I'm mostly Mizrahi.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my background. I lived in America and then I came back here to Israel. I'm back here now for 30 years now. But I went to Petra. The only other place I went in the Middle East was in Petra.
Petra in Jordan.
In Jordan, yeah, and I went to Turkey, but that's not really their world. But it was nice, With other,
Petra is a nice city, you know.
Petra is beautiful. But I like, I like the Arab culture. I like Arab music a lot. It sounds very romantic. But I don't know many singers. I only know the old ones, They're
Yeah,
always
like Uncle Thom and Beirut and so on, right?
Farid al-Atrash.
I get a really good feel for this
There
city.
was,
It's such a metropolis.
yeah, this one, and there was another Warda.
It's beautiful.
Warta, yeah.
And Feroz, of course, everyone likes Feroz.
So, can I ask you a question, Ethan? Your grandparents were born in Jerusalem,
Yes.
and that was before 1948.
It's Jewish is millennium. Every time it's really good. You can't read this version.
Your mic is garbage, Mr. Gab. Like, try to.
We cannot hear you clearly. So, they were Palestinian at that time, is that right?
Every time this
Bro, really, I can't understand.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Mr. Ismail. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Okay, what's the question?
Come back to working?
So, your grandparents were
I'm not understand you.
Wait, 1% at a time, please.
Yeah, let matters.
Yeah. Because you know why? Because it's all people. It's my family. In the 7 October, is go out to his cousin. It's for example, you is more drinking, have a party in your house, and all people come in your house. This is unnormal.
I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, his mic is bad. Let Mr. Mado speak. You want to say something?
So your grandparents were Palestinian at one point, is that right?
Palestinian?
Before 1948.
This is unnormal.
You know that it was the Ottoman Empire, and then in 1917 the British came there and redrew the map for us, and then it was called Palestine. And my mother had birth certificate.
It's my heart. Yeah, I know your heart, brother. I know.
Mr. Gab, your mic is garbage.
We can't hear you clearly. You should use different output, like earphones or something like that. It might get better.
So we're talking about it, right?
Really, sometimes I'm crying.
That, please.
Mr. Gab, I'm having difficulty understanding. But we'll get to first another.
Because I am not his born now. Why?
You
know this? I
can't understand what he's saying because your mic is muffled, my friend. All right. Maro will continue.
So they were Palestinian at some point because Israel was founded in 1948. So there was no Israeli nationality or passport before 1948.
So they're Palestinians? You're telling me my mother and my father are Palestinians?
Palestinian doesn't mean Muslim. Palestinian means a place, a land. Palestinian people can be Muslim, can be Christian, can be Jewish, can be atheist, agnostic.
Okay, so what exactly you see? It can be anything then, right?
Yeah, you can be Palestinian and atheist, not believing in any God.
Okay, so you can be Palestinian and Jewish too, right?
Yes, yeah, of course.
excuse me, everybody. But kissing hand after Netanyahu. Because all people is taken after Israel, Jewish people. things and much it means. My heart is Jewish, and my heart is Polack. My heart is Haifa.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. His heart is in the right place. Okay. I'm gonna go back to Maro's asking me a question.
Yeah, so if everyone this part, this geography, whatever you call it Palestine, you call it Israel.
I'm changing my photo because I don't like every.
We cannot hear you clearly.
Excuse me, I'm changing my photo because I don't like every people knows I'm Jewish.
Why? You should be proud of that.
Okay, he got out.
Anyway, okay, you were telling me something about the Palestinian nation.
Yeah, so you all had the same passport at some point. So
yeah, we had the same passport. I think we had a British issued passport that said Palestine.
Yeah.
My mother's birth certificate says Palestine on it, and the in the Bukhari quarter.
Yeah.
Jerusalem. Yeah, it's West Jerusalem. And my father.
So why one part need to eliminate the other part to exist?
I don't believe anyone should eliminate another part.
That's very good. That's very good start.
I don't believe it should be eliminated.
So people in Gaza should remain in Gaza if they want, because they were born there and their grandparents were born there. They shouldn't be forced to leave Gaza, die or leave. And even there is no door, there is no gate for them to leave.
Well, we understand this, that there should be a return to where people were born, and they have to accept the consequences, absolutely.
Yeah, that's very right. And that gives us the right to the American nation to expel the Europeans back to where they were born. Because America wasn't white 500 years ago.
Take you.
Is that right? Europeans. So Joe Biden has Irish roots. So we should ask him to go back to Irish, where he belonged, to Ireland. George Bush came from Emirates in Northern Europe.
Okay, ego.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Ego. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay. Ego, want to answer that one? Anybody? Amos?
I want to say some things. And I hope that these people,
which concurs in the formation of the child and offers them incessant reminiscences of the forms that abound therein. This explains how it is that women of the highest virtue deceive the malignity of observers by equivocal resemblances. On the fruit of their marriage they impress frequently an image which has struck them in dream, and it is thus that the same physiognomies are perpetuated from generation to generation. The Kabbalistic usage of the pentagram can determine therefore the appearance of the unborn children, and an initiated woman might endow her son with the characteristics of Nero or Achilles, with those of Louis XIV or Napoleon. We shall indicate the method in our ritual. The pentagram is called in Kabbalah the sign of the microcosm, that sign so exalted by Goethe in the beautiful monologue of Faust. Ah, how do all my senses leap at this sight! I feel the young and sacred pleasure of life quivering in my nerves and veins. Was it a god who traced this sign which stills the vertigo of my soul, fills my poor heart with joy, and in a mysterious rapture unveils the forces of nature around me? Am I myself a god? All is so clear to me. I behold in these simple lines the revelation of active nature to my soul. I realize for the first time the truth of the wise man's words. The world of spirits is not closed. Thy sense is obtuse, thy heart is dead. Arise, bathe, O adept of science, thy breast still enveloped by an earthly veil in the splendors of the dawning day. Faust, Part 1, Scene 1. On 24th of July in the year 1854, the author of this book, Eliphas Levi, made an experiment of evocation with the pentagram, after due preparation according to all the ceremonies indicated in the 13th chapter of the ritual. The success of this experiment, details of which, as regard its principles, will be found in the corresponding chapter of the present doctrinal part, establishes a new pathological fact, which men of true science will admit without difficulty. The experience, repeated even to a third time, gave results truly extraordinary, but positive and unmixed with hallucination. We invite skeptics to make a conscientious and intelligent trial on their own part, before shrugging their shoulders and smiling. The figure of the pentagram, completed in accordance with science and used by the author in his experiment, is that which is found at the head of this chapter, and it is more perfect than any in the Keys of Solomon or in the magical calendars of Tycho Brahe and Duquesnoy. We must remark, however, that the use of the pentagram is most dangerous for operators who are not in possession of its complete and perfect understanding. The direction of the points of the star is in no sense arbitrary, and may change the entire character of an operation, as we shall explain in the ritual. Paracelsus, that innovator in magic, who surpassed all other initiates in his unaided practical success, affirms that every magical figure and every Kabbalistic sign of the pentacles which compel spirits may be reduced to two, which are the synthesis of all the others. These are the sign of the macrocosm, or the seal of Solomon, the form of which we have given already, and that of the microcosm, more potent even than the first, that is to say, the pentagram, of which he provides a most minute description in his occult philosophy. If it be asked how a sign can exercise so much power over spirits, we inquire in return why the whole Christian world bows down before that sign of the cross. The sign is nothing by itself, and has no force apart from the doctrine of which it is the summary and the logos. Now, a sign which summarizes in their expression all the occult forces of nature, a sign which has ever exhibited to elementary spirits and others a power greater than their own, fills them naturally with respect and fear, enforcing their obedience by the empire of science and of will over ignorance and weakness. By the pentagram also is measured the exact proportions of the great and unique athanor necessary to the confection of the philosophical stone, and the accomplishment of the great work. The most perfect alembic in which the quintessence can be elaborated is conformable to this figure, and the quintessence itself is represented by the sign of the pentagram. Magical equilibrium. Tifereth uncus. Supreme intelligence is necessarily reasonable. God in philosophy may be only a hypothesis, but he is a hypothesis imposed by good sense on human reason. To personify the absolute reason is to determine the divine ideal. Necessity, liberty, and reason. These are the great and supreme triangle of the Kabbalists, who name reason Kether, necessity Chokmah, and liberty Binah, in their first or divine triad. Fatality, will, and power, such is the magical triad, which corresponds in things human to the divine triad. Fatality is the inevitable sequence of effects and causes in a determined order. Will is the directing faculty of intelligent forces for the conciliation of the liberty of persons with the necessity of things. Power is the wise application of will which enlists fatality itself in the accomplishment of the desires of the sage. When Moses smote the rock, he did not create the spring of water. He revealed it to the people because occult science had made it known to himself by means of the divining rod. It is in like manner with all miracles of magic. A law exists which is ignored by the vulgar and made use of by the initiate. Occult laws are often opposed diametrically to common ideas. For example, the crowd believes in the sympathy of things which are alike and in the hostility of things contrary, but it is the opposite which is the true law. It used to be affirmed that nature abhors the void, but it should be said that nature desires it, were the void not, in physics, the most irrational of fictions. In all things the vulgar mind habitually takes shadow for reality, turns its back upon light, and is reflected in the obscurity which it projects itself. The forces of nature are at the disposal of one who knows how to resist them. Are you master sufficiently of yourself to never be intoxicated? Then will you direct the terrible and fatal power of intoxication. If you would make others drunk, possess them with the desire of drink, but do not partake of it yourself. That man will dispose of the love of others who is master of his own. If you would possess, do not give. The world is magnetized by the light of the sun, and we are magnetized by the astral light of the world. That which operates in the body of the planet repeats itself in us. Within us there are three analogical and hierarchic worlds, as in all nature. Man is the microcosm or little world, and according to the doctrine of analogies, whatsoever is in the great world is reproduced in the small. Hence we have three centers of fluidic attraction and projection: the brain, the heart or epigastric region, and the genital organ. Each of these instruments is one and twofold. In other words, we find the suggestion of the triad therein. Each attracts on one side and repels on the other. It is by means of such apparatus that we place ourselves in communication with the universal fluid supplied to us by the nervous system. These three centers are, moreover, the seat of a triple magnetic operation, as we shall explain elsewhere. When the magus has attained lucidity, whether through the mediation of a pythoness or by his own development, he communicates and directs at will the magnetic vibrations in the whole mass of the astral light, the currents of which he divines by means of the magic wand, which is a perfected divining rod. By the aid of these vibrations, he influences the nervous system of persons made subject to his action, accelerates or suspends the currents of life, soothes or tortures, heals or hurts, in fine, slays or brings to life. Here, however, we pause in presence of the smile of incredulity.
Huh? Hello?
Hi.
Hi, Steph.
Hi, Diego.
How are you?
I'm good. Just upset from earlier today.
Oh, don't be upset.
Let us permit it to enjoy the easy triumph of denying what it does not know. We shall demonstrate later on that death is preceded always by a lethargic sleep, and hence takes place gradually. That resurrection is possible in certain cases, that lethargy is a real but uncompleted death, and that the final paroxysm is in many cases subsequent to inhumation. This, however, is not the subject of the present chapter. We affirm now that a lucid will can act upon the mass of the astral light, and in concurrence with other wills which it absorbs and draws along, can determine great and irresistible currents. We say also that the astral light condenses or rarefies in proportion as currents accumulate, more or less at certain centers. When it is deficient in the energy required for the support of life, diseases accompanied by sudden decomposition follow, of a kind which baffle physicians. There is no other cause, for example, in the case of cholera morbus, than the swarms of animalculae observed or supposed by some specialists may be the effect rather than the cause. Cholera should be treated therefore by insufflation. Did not the operator thereby run the chance of an exchange with the patient which would be very formidable for himself? Every intelligent effort of will is a projection of the human fluid or light, and here it is needful to distinguish the human from the astral light, and animal from universal magnetism. In making use of the word fluid, we employ an accepted expression, and seek to be understood in this manner, but we are far from deciding that the latent light is a fluid. Everything prompts us, on the contrary, to prefer the system of vibrations in the explanation of this phenomenal subject. However it may be, the light in question, being the instrument of life, cleaves naturally to all living centers, attaches itself to the nucleus of planets, even as to the heart of man, and by the heart we understand magically the great sympathetic, identifying itself with the individual life of the being which it animates, and it is by this quality of sympathetic assimilation that it is distributed without confusion. Hence it is terrestrial in its affinity with the sphere of the earth, and human exclusively in its affinity with men. It is for this reason that electricity, caloric, light, and magnetism produced by ordinary physical means not only do not originate, but tend rather to neutralize the effects of animal magnetism. The astral light, subordinated to a blind mechanism and proceeding from arbitrary automatic centers, is a dead light and works mathematically, following given impulsions or fatal laws. The human light is fatal only to the ignorant, performing chance experiments. In the seer, it is subjected to intelligence, submitted to imagination, and dependent on will. This light, continually projected by the will, constitutes the personal atmospheres of Swedenborg. The body absorbs what environs it and radiates perpetually by projecting its influences and invisible molecules. It is the same with the spirit, so that this phenomenon, by some mystics termed respiration, has really the influence, both physical and moral, which is assigned to it. It is undoubtedly contagious to breathe the same air as diseased persons, and to be within the circle of attraction and expansion which surrounds the wicked. When the magnetic atmosphere of two persons is so equilibrated that the attractive faculty of one draws the expansive faculty of the other, a tendency is produced which is termed sympathy. Then imagination, calling up to it all the rays or reflections analogous to that which it experiences, makes a poem of the desires which captivate will, and if the persons differ in sex, it occasions in them, or more commonly in the weaker of the two, the complete intoxication of the astral light, which is termed passion par excellence, or love. Love is one of the great instruments of magical power, but it is categorically forbidden to the magus, at least as an intoxication or passion. Woe to the Samson of the Kabbalah if he permit himself to be put asleep by Delilah. The Hercules of science, who exchanges his royal scepter for the distaff of Omphale, will soon experience the vengeance of Deianira, and nothing will be left for him but the pyre of Mount Oeta, in order to escape the devouring folds of the coat of Nasus. Sexual love is ever an illusion, for it is the result of an imaginary mirage. The astral light is the universal seducer, typified by the serpent of Genesis. This subtle agent, ever active, ever vigorous, ever fruitful in alluring dreams and sensuous images. This force, which of itself is blind and subordinated to every will, whether for good or evil. This ever-renewing circulus of unbridled life, which produces vertigo in the imprudent. This corporeal spirit, this fiery body, this impalpable omnipresent ether, this monstrous seduction of nature. How shall we define it comprehensively, and how characterize its action? To some extent indifferent in itself, it lends itself to good as to evil. It transmits light and propagates darkness. It may be called equally Lucifer and Lucifuge. It is a serpent, but it is also an oriole. It is a fire, but it may belong equally to the torments of Infernus, or the sacrifice of incense offered up to heaven. To dispose of it, we must, like the predestined woman, set our foot upon its head. In the elementary world, water corresponds to the Kabbalistic woman, and fire to the serpent. To subdue the serpent, that is, to govern the circle of the astral light, we must place ourselves outside its currents. In other words, we must isolate ourselves. For this reason, Apollonius of Tyana wrapped himself completely in a mantle of fine wool, setting his feet thereon and drawing it over his head. Then he bent his back in semicircular fashion and closed his eyes after performing certain rites, probably magnetic passes and sacramental words, designed to fix imagination and determine the action of will. The woolen mantle is of great use in magic, and was the common conveyance of sorcerers on their way to the Sabbath, which proves that the sorcerers did not really go to the Sabbath, but the Sabbath came to the sorcerers when isolated in their mantle, and brought before their translucid images analogous to their magical preoccupations, combined with reflections of all kindred acts accomplished previously in the world. This torrent of universal life is represented also in religious doctrines by the expiatory fire of hell. It is the instrument of initiation, the monster to be overcome, the enemy to subdue. It is this which brings to our evocations and to the conjurations of goetic magic such swarms of larvae and phantoms. Therein are preserved all the fantastic and fortuitous assemblages of forms which people our nightmares with such abominable monstrosities. To be sucked down by this whirling stream is to fall into abysses of madness, more frightful than those of death. To expel the shades of this chaos and compel it to give perfect forms to our thoughts. This is to be a man of genius. It is to create. It is to be victorious over hell. The astral light directs the instincts of animals and offers battle to the intelligence of man, which it strives to pervert by the enticements of its reflections and the illusion of its images. It is a fatal and inevitable operation, directed and made still more calamitous by elementary spirits and suffering souls, whose restless wills seek out sympathies in our weakness and tempt us, but not so much to destroy us as to win friends for themselves. That book of consciences, which, according to Christian doctrine, shall be opened at the last day, is no other than the astral light, which preserves the impress of every logos, that is to say, of all actions and all forms. Our acts modify our magnetic respiration in such a way that a seer, meeting any person for the first time, can tell whether he is innocent or criminal, and what are his virtues or his crimes. This faculty, which belongs to divination, was called by the Christian mystics of the early church the discernment of spirits. Those who abdicate the empire of reason and permit their wills to wander in pursuit of reflections in the astral light are subject to alternations of mania and melancholy which have originated all the marvels of demoniacal possession, though it is true at the same time that by means of these reflections impure spirits can act upon such souls, make use of them as docile instruments, and even habitually torment their organism, wherein they enter and reside by obsession or embryonically. These Kabbalistic terms are explained in the Hebrew book of the Revolution of Souls, of which our 13th chapter will contain a succinct analysis. It is therefore extremely dangerous to make sport of the mysteries of magic. It is above all excessively rash to practice its rites from curiosity, by way of experiment and as if to exploit higher forces. The inquisitive who, without being adepts, busy themselves with evocations or occult magnetism, are like children playing with fire in the neighborhood of a cask of gunpowder. Sooner or later they will fall victims to some terrible explosion. To be isolated from the astral light, it is not enough to envelop one's self in a woolen fabric. We must also, and above all, impose absolute tranquility on mind and heart. We must have quitted the world of passions and be assured of perseverance in the spontaneous operations of an inflexible will. We must reiterate frequently the acts of this will, for, as we shall see in the introduction to the ritual, it is by acts only that confidence is assured to the will, as the power and perpetuity of religions depend on their rites and ceremonies. They are intoxicating substances which, by increasing nervous sensibility, exalt the power and consequently the allurements of astral representations. By the same means, but pursuing a contrary course, spirits may be terrified and disturbed. These substances, of themselves magnetic and magnetized further by operators, are what people term philters and enchanted potions. But we shall not enter here upon this dangerous aspect of the practice, which Cornelius Agrippa himself terms venomous magic. It is true that there are no longer pyres for sorcerers, but always and more than ever are there penalties dealt out to malefactors. Let us confine ourselves therefore to stating, as the occasion offers, the reality of such power. To direct the astral light, we must understand also its twofold vibration, as well as the balance of forces termed magical equilibrium expressed in the Kabbalah by the Senari. Considered in its first cause, this equilibrium is the will of God. It is liberty in man and mathematical equilibrium in matter. Equilibrium produces stability and duration. Liberty generates the immortality of man, and the will of God gives effect to the laws of eternal reason. Equilibrium in ideas is reason and enforces power. Equilibrium is exact.
Yes,
Fulfill
I
its
know.
law
Oh,
and it is there.
You do?
Violate it,
You
however
know?
slightly, and it is destroyed.
No.
For this reason,
Oh,
nothing
I
is
bet you
useless or lost. Every utterance and every movement are for or against equilibrium, for or against truth, which is composed of for and against conciliated, or at least equilibrated. We shall state in the introduction to the ritual how magical equilibrium should be produced, and why it is necessary to the success of all operations. Omnipotence is the most absolute liberty. Now, absolute liberty cannot exist apart from perfect equilibrium. Magical equilibrium is hence one of the first conditions of success in the operations of science, and must be sought even in occult chemistry, in learning to combine contraries without neutralizing them by one another. Magical equilibrium explains the great and primeval mystery of the existence and relative necessity of evil. This relative necessity gives, in black magic, the measure of the power of demons or impure spirits, to whom virtues practiced upon earth are a source of increased rage and apparently of increased power. At the epochs when saints and angels work miracles openly, sorcerers and fiends in their turn operate marvels and prodigies. Rivalry often creates success. We lean upon that which resists. The Fiery Sword. Netza Gladius. The septenary is the sacred number in all theogonies and in all symbols, because it is composed of the triad and the tetrad. The number 7 represents magical power in all its fullness. It is the mind reinforced by all elementary potencies. It is the soul served by nature. It is the sanctum regnum mentioned in the Keys of Solomon and represented in the tarot by a crowned warrior who bears a triangle on his cuirass and is poised upon a cube, to which 2 sphinxes are harnessed, straining in opposite directions, while their heads are turned the same way. This warrior is armed with a fiery sword and holds in his left hand a scepter surmounted by a triangle and a sphere. The cube is the philosophical stone. The sphinxes are the 2 forces of the great agent, corresponding to Jachin and Boaz, the 2 pillars of the temple. The cuirass is the knowledge of divine things, which renders the wise man invulnerable to human assaults. The scepter is the magic wand. The fiery sword is the symbol of victory over the deadly sins, 7 in number, like the virtues, the conceptions of both being typified by the ancients under the figures of the 7 planets then known. Thus faith, that aspiration towards the infinite, that noble self-reliance sustained by confidence in all virtues, the faith which in weak natures may degenerate into pride, was represented by the sun. Hope, the enemy of avarice, by the moon. Charity, in opposition to luxury, by Venus, the bright star of morning and evening. Strength, superior to wrath, by Mars. Prudence, hostile to idleness, by Mercury. Temperance, opposed to gluttony, by Saturn, who was given a stone instead of his children to devour. Finally, justice, in opposition to envy, by Jupiter, the conqueror of the Titans. Such are the symbols borrowed by astronomy from the Hellenic cultus. In the Kabbalah of the Hebrews, the sun represents the angel of light, the moon the angel of aspirations and dreams, Mars the destroying angel, Varius the angel of loves, Mercury the angel of progress, Jupiter the angel of power, Saturn the angel of the wilderness. They were named also Michael, Gabriel, Samael, Anael, Raphael, Zachariel, and Oriphael. These governing potencies of souls shared human life during successive periods, which astrologers measured by the revolutions of the corresponding planets. But Kabbalistic astrology must not be confounded with that which is called judicial. We will explain this distinction. Infancy is dedicated to the sun, childhood to the moon, youth to Mars and Venus, manhood to Mercury, ripe age to Jupiter, and old age to Saturn. Now, humanity in general subsists under laws of development analogous to those of individual life. On this basis, Trithemius establishes his prophetic key of the 7 spirits, to which we shall refer subsequently. By means thereof, observing the analogical proportions of successive events, it is possible to predict important future occurrences with certitude, and to fix beforehand from age to age the destinies of nations and the world. St. John, depositary of the secret doctrine of Christ, has commemorated this sequence in the Kabbalistic book of the Apocalypse, which he represents sealed with 7 seals. We meet also the 7 genii of ancient mythologies and the cups and swords of the tarot. The doctrine concealed under these emblems is pure Kabbalah, already lost by the Pharisees at the time of Christ's advent. The scenes which succeeded one another in this wonderful prophetic epic are so many pentacles, the keys of which are the ternary, the quaternary, the septenary, and the duodenary. Its hieroglyphic figures are analogous to those of the Book of Hermes or the Genesis of Enoch, to make use of a tentative title which expresses merely the personal opinion of the erudite William Postal. The cherub, or symbolic bull, which Moses placed at the gate of the Edenic world, bearing a fiery sword, is a sphinx, having a bull's body and a human head. It is the antique Assyrian sphinx, and the combat and victory of Mithras were its hieroglyphic analysis. Now this armed sphinx represents the law of mystery, which watches at the door of initiation to warn away the profane. Voltaire, who knew nothing of all this, was highly diverted at the notion of a bull brandishing a sword. What would he have said had he visited the ruins of Memphis and Thebes, and what would the echo of past ages which slumbers in the tombs of Ramesses have replied to those light sarcasms so much relished in France? The mosaic cherub represents also the great magical mystery, of which the elements are expressed by the septenary, without, however, giving the final word. This verbum in an arabile of the sages of the Alexandrian school. This word which Hebrew Kabbalists write and interpret by thus expressing the triplicity of the secondary principle, the dualism of means, the equal unity of the first and final principle, the alliance between the triad and the tetrad in a word composed of 4 letters, which forms 7 by means of a triple and double repetition. This word is pronounced ararita. The virtue of the septenary is absolute in magic, for this number is decisive in all things. Hence all religions have consecrated it in their rites. The 7th year was a jubilee among the Jews. The 7th day is set apart for rest and prayer. There are 7 sacraments, etc. The 7 colors of the prism and the 7 musical notes correspond also to the 7 planets of the ancients, that is, to the 7 chords of the human lyre. The spiritual heaven has never changed, and astrology has been more invariable than astronomy. The 7 planets are, in fact, the hieroglyphic symbols of the keyboard of our affections. To compose talismans of the sun, moon, or Saturn is to attach the will magnetically to signs corresponding to the chief powers of the soul. To consecrate something to Mercury or Venus is to magnetize that object according to a direct intention, whether pleasure, science, or profit be the end in view. The analogous metals, animals, plants, and perfumes are auxiliaries to this end. The 7 magical animals are A, among birds, corresponding to the divine world, the swan, the owl, the vulture, the dove, the stork, the eagle, and the pewit. B, among fish, corresponding to the spiritual or scientific world, the seal, the catfish, the pike, the mullet, the chub, the dolphin, the sepia, or cuttlefish. C, among quadrupeds, corresponding to the natural world, the lion, the cat, the wolf, the he-goat, the monkey, the stag, and the mole. The blood, fat, liver, and gall of these animals serve in enchantments. Their brain combines with the perfumes of the planets, and it is recognized by ancient practice that they possess magnetic virtues corresponding to the 7 planetary influences. The talismans of the 7 spirits are engraved either on precious stones such as the carbuncle, crystal, diamond, emerald, agate, sapphire, and onyx, or upon metals such as gold, silver, iron, copper, fixed mercury, pewter, and lead. The Kabbalistic signs of the 7 spirits are, for the sun, a serpent with the head of a lion, for the moon, a globe divided by 2 crescents, for Mars, a dragon biting the hilt of a sword, for Venus, a lingam, for Mercury, the hermetic caduceus and the cynocephalus, for Jupiter, the blazing pentagram and the talons or beak of an eagle, for Saturn, a lame and aged man, or a serpent curled about the sunstone. All these symbols are found on engraved stones of the ancients, and especially on those talismans of the Gnostic epochs, which are known by the name of Abraxas. In the collection of the talismans of Paracelsus, Jupiter is represented by a priest in ecclesiastical garb, while in the tarot he appears as a grand hierophant, crowned with a triple tiara, holding a three-barred cross in his hands, forming the magical triangle and representing at once the scepter and key of the three worlds. By collating all that has been said about the unity of the triad and tetrad, we shall find all that remains to be told concerning the septenary, that grand and complete magical unity composed of 4 and 3. Realization. Haud vivens. Causes manifest by effects, and effects are proportioned to causes. The divine word, the one word, the tetragram is self-affirmed by tetradic creation. Human fecundity proves divine fecundity. The jod of the divine name is the eternal virility of the first principle. Man understands that he was made in the image of God when he attains comprehension of God by increasing to infinity the idea which he forms of himself. When realizing God as the infinite man, man says unto himself, I am the finite God. Magic differs from mysticism because it judges nothing a priori until after it is established a posteriori, the actual base of its judgment.